All right, here are the notes for 7-1. First of all, some vocabulary. Ratio, we've all heard of ratio before. Basically, this is a comparison of two quantities. And what it basically looks like is just a fraction, or sometimes it's like, whoops, let's go with a 3.5, or a fraction 3/5, or 3 to 5. But it's basically a comparison of two numbers. It could be apples to oranges, boys to girls, anything to that effect, 3 to 5. A proportion is two equal ratios. And again, it will look like two equal fractions. Maybe 3/5 is equal to x/100. If there are 3 boys to every 5 girls, how many boys are there to 100 girls? And then you would cross multiply it and solve that. A scale compares a model to an actual figure. And you might see a scale something like 1 inch on Google Maps equals 500 miles in real life. Okay? And that would be the scale. 1 inch is equal to 500 miles. This next section is properties of proportions. Proportion, again, is just like a fraction is equal to a fraction. This one is A over B is equal to C over D. It is equivalent to what? Well, whenever you see a proportion, you want to cross multiply this. So it's going to be A times D is equal to B times C. So you want to say A times D, which is AD, is equal to B times C, which is BC. When you cross multiply this, do not do this. Don't say AD and then try to keep the fraction. If you're trying to keep the fraction, you're going to be wrong. It should be an equal sign in between. Okay, so it's no longer a fraction after you cross multiply. But these two multiply, and then B and C multiply. So what is that equivalent to? Well, AD is equal to BC. They kind of rearrange the fractions here, where A is on top, B is on the bottom. Now they put B on the top, A on the bottom. But ultimately, when you cross multiply it, you've got to have a number here. If A is on the bottom, D has to be up here because you still want A times D. B is here, you want to cross multiply it and hit the C. B and C should always hit each other. So this is equivalent to this. Just different ways of rearranging the original fractions and still getting the same result, where A and D get multiplied, B and C get multiplied. So I got AC, and so I want to put the letter B on top because I still want B times C, and D on the bottom because I want A times D. I got A plus B over B. This one is going to be C plus D over D. Now this one is a little bit more complex. It's like, well, how is this equivalent to this? Well, let's just flat out cross multiply it and see if we get the same result, where A and D get multiplied and B and C get multiplied. So if I cross multiply this, it's D times A plus B in parentheses is equal to B on the outside, C plus D in parentheses. Again, this does not look like it's going to end up here, but it will in a moment. We're going to do the distributive property here. We're going to go D times A is AD, D times back is BD. This is B times C, B times D. And if you notice, on the left and the right side is a plus BD plus BD. They just cancel each other out. And so the answer correctly is AD is equal to BC. Okay, so this is the actual equivalent to this original proportion. All right, we're going to move down here to number 1. Do some math. You're going to potentially need a calculator here. A photo that is 8 inches wide and 6 inches high. Okay, so I've got a photo here that is 8 inches by 6 inches. This is the photo. It's going to be enlarged, so I'm going to make a bigger guy here so that it is 2 feet wide and 1.5 feet high. Now don't put the number 2 here and 1.5 here, because that almost implies when you see the number 8 and you see the number 2, you would assume, well, 8 is bigger than 2, and so you would think that this is bigger. Well, you got to put them on equal grounds. This is 2 feet. This is 8 inches. So I wrote that in an eraser. Let's convert the 2 feet into inches. 2 times 12 is 24. This is 24 inches. And then 1.5 feet is 18 inches. So we'll put the 18 inches there. Okay? Now what does the question ask us to do? By the way, this is the poster, the larger poster. They say write what is the ratio? There's really no calculations with the ratio. It's just a number. It compares this number to that number, boys to girls, dogs to cats. But what are they comparing? The height of the photo, which is 6, ... as a ratio of the height of the poster, which is 18. And that's it. That's a ratio, 6 to 18. Or you can reduce this 1 to 3. The poster is 3 times bigger than the photo. Okay, but a ratio is just a comparison of two numbers. There's no real calculations there. All right, write 2 expressions that are equivalent to this proportion. Now this is very much like this part here, where we're going to end up with taking these fractions, kind of mix-matching them in different ways, but getting the same equivalent result. If you cross-multiply this, this is going to be 11 and m, 11m is equal to 4 and n, 4n. So let's rearrange this where now the 4 is on top, the m is on the bottom, and then I need a number up here. Well, I want m and 11 to multiply together, so I got to put 11 there. 4 and the n, so I need an n down there. That's one answer. They want 2 answers. So let's put another one. Maybe we'll put m on top and the letter n on the bottom. What would come on top here? Well, it's going to get cross-multiplied with n, so I need a 4. And then on the bottom here, I need the 11, and that's a second proportion. Whether you flip-flop it and whatnot, once you cross-multiply it, you still get the same result. Solve these proportions. So we're actually going to solve for x here. We're just going to cross-multiply this. This is x times 20, 20x. 5 times 3 is 15. 20x is equal to 15. Again, I see this as a mistake once in a while. Some people know cross-multiply. They go 20x, but for some reason they really want to keep the fraction, so they just go divided by 15. This is not what cross-multiplication is. This is just a different fraction. Cross-multiplication is where you have an equal sign in between. By the way, then you divide this by 20, so x is equal to 15 divided by 20, which is 3/4 or 0.75. Cross-multiply this one here. Number 4, this is 18x is equal to, now 6, and you got to keep this in parentheses, x plus 6. 18x, this is 6x plus 36, because you do the distributive property. Every part gets multiplied by 6. 12x is equal to 36, x is equal to 12. Excuse me, not 12, 3.